Assalamu alaikum. How would you like to form your own sentences and phrases in Arabic and also translate selected text from Quran from Arabic to English just from the end of lesson number 2? Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Welcome, Lisaan-ul-Qur'an, easier than English, lesson number 2. The key learning outcome of this lesson: to look at definiteness, one of the 4 properties of an ism, in detail. In particular, go through the 7 categories of ism that are definite in the Arabic language. Use that knowledge along with the knowledge acquired about Arab to start forming our first set of sentences and descriptive phrases. And finally, to translate selected text from Quran. So a lot to achieve. Let's begin in Allah's blessed name. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Definiteness, ta'rif wa tankir. What do we mean by definite? We mean whether an ism is referring to something common, i.e. indefinite, or something specific, i.e. definite. So every ism in the Arabic language will either be ma'rifatun, definite, or nakiratun, indefinite. For example, if I say a village, a town, a city, a country, a continent, these are all common nouns. But as soon as I mention name of a specific place like Makkah, London, Paris, or whatever, we know that that is specific, i.e. a proper noun. So every ism in Arabic, just like in English, will either be definite or indefinite. From the meaning of the word and using basic common sense, we could work out whether an ism is referring to something definite or indefinite. We do not need to make any effort in this field. The scholars of Arabic have identified 7 categories of isms that are definite in Arabic. Number 1, al-ismul alam, the proper noun. Number 2, ad-dama'ir, pronouns. Number 3, al-mu'arrafu bil-lam, something made definite by the use of al. This is exactly the same as the definite article we have in English with the. In Arabic we use al. Number 4, asma'ul ishara, demonstrative nouns, words that are used to point to something. Number 5, asma'ul mawsula, relative nouns. Number 6, the vocative, when you address or call someone. Number 7, al-mudafu ila ma'rifa, a indefinite noun related to a definite. These are the 7 categories of isms in Arabic that are definite. Everything else is indefinite. We're going to go through all 7 briefly, but the first 3 are the most important for us as we can start forming sentences with them from lesson number 2 onwards. Inshallah, 4, 5, 6, and 7, we will have dedicated lessons on where we will go through them in detail as they are very frequently used in the Quran. But there will be dedicated lessons after we have learned a bit more about Arab. So let's begin looking closely at the 7 categories of isms in Arabic that are definite. Category 1, the proper noun, al-ismul alam. The proper noun is exactly the same as we have in the English language. It is a specific name given to a person, place, or thing, not a generic name. For example, you could say a man, could be any man, but Hamid is a proper noun. Fatima is a proper noun. London is a proper noun. Makkah is a proper noun. So proper nouns are always definite. Number 2, ad-dama'ir, pronouns. Example, huwa means he, anta means you, ana means I. There are many different types of pronouns in Arabic, just like we have in the English language. Here we're going to begin with only 3 examples. Huwa, which means he, anta is you, ana is I. Please remember these 3. The rest we will pick up in lesson number 4. These are very, very important. This set of pronouns are called subject pronouns in Arabic. Subject pronouns. And there are 14 of them, and they actually come in the Quran more than 1400 times. So they're very important for us to learn. Inshallah, we're going to begin with 3 in this lesson. And by the time we get to lesson number 4, we will learn all the 14, and we will see their significance and importance as well. The important thing to note is these pronouns are always definite. And if you recall our discussion from the previous lesson, they're always in the rafa status. Why? Because the subject is always in the rafa status. The third category is al-mu'arrafu bil-lam, definite by al. It is when we take an indefinite noun, like for example, a house, and we put in English, the house. It becomes definite. The direct equivalent of that in Arabic is al. We're going to look at this a little bit more detail because we're going to be using it right throughout the course. So let's begin by taking a closer look at al, the definite article in Arabic. al is equivalent to the in the Arabic language. We have a mosque, the mosque in English. What we'll have in Arabic is masjidun, a mosque, al-masjidu, the mosque. We have a book, kitabun, and the book will be al-kitabu. We have a pen, qalamun, and the pen will be al-qalamu. So the and al is exactly the same. An obvious point to remember, the in English is written as a separate word, as you can clearly see here, whereas al is always joined onto the word that it is making definite. So al is never written separately in the Arabic language, always joined onto the word that it is making definite. The first part of al, the definite article in Arabic, is made up of hamzatul wasl, and the second part is the lam. And that is why in Arabic it's actually called al-mu'arrafu bil-lam, made definite by lam. Now the point about hamzatul wasl is that it's going to play a very significant role in your study. There will be some changes in words before it and that changes of words after it due to hamzatul wasl being there. So therefore we're going to go through it a little bit more detail. Again, a reminder of some of the points covered in the introductory session. So in Arabic you have two types of hamza, hamzatul wasl and hamzatul qat. Hamzatul wasl is really a very special hamza. This one only comes at the beginning of a word. You will never see it in the middle or the end of a word. In the Quranic script, we have a small symbol like so, placed on top of the alif at the beginning to indicate that it is hamzatul wasl. So it's very easy to identify. Whereas in standard Arabic, it is not written. So it is a bit more tricky to know whether it is hamzatul wasl or not. The most common place you'll see hamzatul wasl is in the definite article, which is in Arabic, of course, we're going to call al. It begins with hamzatul wasl. It can appear in some selected nouns and some verb forms. So please note nouns like ithnani, which means two, and its derivatives, imra'atun, woman, ibnatun, daughter, ibnun, son, ismun, name. All of these isms, nouns, have hamzatul wasl at the beginning. There will be some verbs also. Two examples given here for you. Unsur, istaghfir. So again, these are categories of verbs or patterns of verbs. When it comes to that, inshallah ta'ala, we'll go in more detail. So remember, hamzatul wasl can come in front of the al, which is the most common place you'll see it, some selected nouns, and some verbs. Wherever hamzatul wasl appears, the most important thing about it is that it is only read if speech begins with it. So for example, if the first thing I'm reading is this word, I will say al-kitabu, al-kitabu. If I read the first thing I read is this word, I say ihdina. If I read this word first, I will say ij'al. And here I would read unsur. Now again, I'm sure you know this from your reading. Just in case you're worried why I'm putting a here, why e here, why e here, and why u here, the answer is very simple. There are some basic rules for reading hamzatul wasl. Most important one is that whenever it comes with the definite article, it is always read as a, not e or u, always read as a without exception. Otherwise, it is read as e, as you can see in this example, ihdina and ij'al. So always read as e. With al, it is always a. Now, the exception to this rule is if the third letter, so this is your letter number 1, this is your letter number 2, and this is your letter number 3. Now, the third letter on the word, if it has a dhamma, it is read with a dhamma. So in this case, it is read unsur. Second letter will always be sakin, but the third letter, if it has a dhamma, it is read with the u, otherwise e, except with al, which always a. So these are the reading rules for hamzatul wasl. The other point you note, this is not directly related to hamzatul wasl, is that we have 14 letters in the Arabic language which are called shamsi and 14 are called qamari. I'm sure again you know that from your reading. So this one, for example, I'm reading al-kitabu and we're reading al-qamaru. So I'm going straight from here to here. But here I will go straight from here to the sheen. I will read this as ash-shamsu, ash-shamsu. And there are 14 letters which behave like this and 14 letters which behave like the word qamar. So these are called qamari and shamsi. The third point about reading hamzatul wasl is if the speech does not begin with it, i.e. I read something else before the hamzatul wasl, then the hamzatul wasl is not read. Example here for you very simply, here I'm reading al-kitabu, whereas here I will read wal-kitabu. Here I'm reading al-qamaru, here I will read wal-qamaru. Here I'm reading ash-shamsu, here I will read wash-shamsu. Again, note in those examples, the hamzatul wasl is ignored. So here Hamzatul Wasl is ignored in reading, but written down. Of course, the lam is ignored here for the other reason which I mentioned. It is to do with Shamsi letters. So please note, Hamzatul Wasl is not read if something else precedes it. It is only read when speech begins with it. Hamzatul Qat is like your normal Hamza, which can appear in the beginning, middle, or the end of a word. If it appears in the beginning, it always appears on an alif. Always on an alif, only on an alif. Otherwise, it in the middle and at the end, it can appear on an alif, waw, or ya, or by itself. For now, note, Hamzatul Qat is always written and always read. So al is made out of two parts, Hamzatul Wasl and your lam. It is the lam that makes it definite. That is why it's called al-mu'arrafu bil-lam. One of the most important and golden rules of the Arabic language is that you will never ever find tanween and al together on the same word. It will either be one or the other. So whenever al is added to a word to make it definite that already has tanween, the tanween will disappear. You will be left with one single corresponding vowel sign. You will never ever find in Arabic tanween and al together. So let's look at some example. We have the first word, muslimatun. Now I add al to that, so you can see the al in front, and then at the end the tanween will disappear and it will become al-muslimatu. So muslimatun will become al-muslimatu. Next example, muslimatan. Muslimatan will become al-muslimata. Muslimatin, on the other hand, will become al-muslimati. You can see only thing it will change is if it has tanween. Now, last example, we have mu'minuna. Now, mu'minuna means believers, male believers in plural. So if I add al in front of mu'minuna, I will get exactly the same, al-mu'minuna, the believers. No change whatsoever at the end of the word. So again, note, it is only when you have tanween, you add al, the tanween is removed and single corresponding vowel sign is placed. And if there is no tanween, then there will be no change. I remember asking my teacher at the beginning, why was that? Why can't we put tanween and al together? He said that long time ago, before Arabic were written down, al and tanween had a big fight with each other. And since then, they never appeared together on the same word. I hope you were joking, but the point is that rule is strictly followed in the Arabic language. Okay, so please remember the golden rule. Tanween or al, never both together. Don't ever put them together, otherwise it will be a fundamental mistake in Arabic. The other point regarding al is obvious. We have the same thing in the English language. You cannot add al to a word that is already definite. For example, in English, we have he, London. These are both definite words. They're referring to something specific. Now, in English, I cannot add the he. It makes no sense. And I cannot say the London. This makes no sense in the English language. It is in the same reason we cannot add al to a word that is already definite. The 7 categories of words I'm going through with you, you cannot add al in front of them because they are already definite. We have rare examples in English where a proper noun has the in front of it. For example, we have the Atlantic. So the Atlantic is a proper noun in English, but it has a the. These are very rare occasions, and we have exactly the same in Arabic. There are very rare nouns, which are proper nouns, which have al in front. For example, ar-Rum, which you will find in the Qur'an, Rome. And then we have some names, common names in Arabic, which have al in front, and these are the names of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam: Al-Abbas, Abbas, Al-Hasan, Al-Hussein. These are 3 common names which have al in front. Otherwise, normally you will never add al in front of a word that is already definite, exactly like the English language. So let's summarize our 4 points regarding al. Number 1, you convert a common noun to a definite noun in Arabic by adding al. Baytun, a house, al-baytu, the house. And then we have the definite article al is made out of 2 parts, Hamzatul Wasl and the lam. And please note the difference between Hamzatul Wasl and Hamzatul Qat. Hamzatul Wasl only appears at the beginning, and it is only read when speech begins with it. It is not read if something else is read before it. Whereas Hamzatul Qat is always read, and it can appear in the beginning, middle, or the end of a word. The confusing bit about it, it can be written on an alif, waw, ya, or by itself. Third point, you can never have al and tanween together on the same word. So this is fundamental mistake in the Arabic language. And the fourth point is you cannot add al to a noun which is already definite, just like in the English language, except for rare occasion when they do so historically in Arabic, for example, ar-room. Fourth category, asma'ul-ishara, demonstrative nouns. Every language has words for pointing. So we have here, for example, this is a house, that is a mosque. So we can use pointing words to point to something close or too far. These words are always definite in the language. These words are called demonstrative pronouns in English. We'll call them demonstrative nouns as they are a category of isms. They're very important for Quranic Arabic study as they appear in the Quran more than 1,000 times. As you know, there are 600 pages in the Quran, the standard mushaf. So in every page, you'll find at least one or two of them. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to look at them in detail. There is a set for pointing to near. There's a set for pointing to far. We will learn all of them when we have the lesson on demonstrative phrases and the sentences that are made with these. And we will look at them in more detail at that stage. Number 5, al-asma'ul mawsula, relative nouns. 2 examples. Alladhi, the one who. Alladhina, those who. They appear in the Quran. Alladhi, 304 times. Alladhina, 1059 times. They, along with the other versions of them like ma and man, appear in the Quran more than 3,500 times. So they will help us form more complex sentence structure. And inshallah ta'ala, we'll have dedicated lessons on them to study how they're used in the Quran. 6th category, al-munada. Al-munada is vocative when you address somebody. And again, extensively used in the Quran. We have 3 examples here for you. Ya ayyuhan nas, O mankind. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you have believed. And Ya qawmi, O my nation. Many more examples are available in the Quran. And again, we will have a dedicated lesson on studying vocatives. The 7th category, al-mudafu ila ma'rifa. Example, Rasulullah, something related to a definite. The word Rasul means messenger, could be any messenger in the Arabic language. But when we say the messenger of Allah, Rasulullah, we are now relating an indefinite noun to something definite. And this is what this category means. And under this section, when we discuss the idafa, we will study them in more detail. In summary, let us note the 7 categories of isms that are definite in the Arabic language. Number 1, al-ismul alam, the proper noun. Example, Hamid, Fatima, Makkah. Number 2, ad-dama'ir, pronouns. Example, huwa, he, anta, you, ana, I. Category number 3, al-mu'arrafu bil-lam, definite by al. Example, baytun, a house, al-baytu, the house. Kitabun, a book, al-kitabu, the book. Then we have the 4th category, al-asma'ul-ishara, demonstrative nouns. Example, hadha, this, dhalika, that. Number 5, al-asma'ul mawsula, relative nouns. Example, alladhi, the one who, alladhina, those who. Al-munada, the vocative. For example, ya walad, ya bint, oh boy, oh girl. Vocative when you address somebody. Number 7, al-mudafu ila ma'rifa, and we have related to a definite. Example, Rasulullah, the messenger of Allah. Please note, everything else in Arabic will always be indefinite. Only these 7 categories of isms are definite. Every ism in the Arabic language has 4 properties: definiteness, gender, number, and i'rab. As far as definiteness is concerned, we are now a bit more closer about it. We know that there are only 2, definite and indefinite. And in the definite category, we have 7 categories of isms that are definite. Everything else is indefinite. Gender, inshallah, we'll pick up in the next lesson. Number, we'll pick up in detail in lesson number 5. Introduce some of it in lesson number 4. As far as i'rab is concerned, we already are aware there are 3. That is rafa, nasab, and jar. How do we remember them? Muslimun, musliman, muslimin. 3 statuses, inshallah ta'ala. Using this knowledge of rafa and our knowledge of definiteness, in the practical session, we'll start forming sentences and our phrases. Before that, let's do a quick quiz. I've got a list of 6 words on the screen. I would like you to identify if they're definite or indefinite from what we discussed earlier. Pause the video, complete the task before continuing. Welcome back. Let's go through the answers. We have the first one, Muhammad. Muhammad is a proper name, so it will be definite. All proper nouns are always definite. We have muallimun, means a teacher. Well, it could be any teacher, so it is not definite. The other way to logically work it out, that it is not a proper noun, it is not a pronoun, and it hasn't got al in front, so it will be definite. Third example we have is here. Here you haven't learnt yet, but it is exactly same as he, which means huwa, and here means she. So she will be definite. All pronouns are always definite. Baytun, a house. Well, it is not a proper noun. It doesn't have al. It is not a pronoun, etc. So it must be indefinite. The word hadha, this, when you point to something, again we mentioned they're a category of definite. And lastly, we have the word al-ilmu. Now, ilm means knowledge. Al-ilmu, the knowledge. So the fact that you have al in front with 100% certainty, you can say that word is definite. So all you need to remember really, brothers and sisters, to continue until we get to about lesson number 10 or 12, is that it is a proper noun or a pronoun, or it is made definite by the use of al. This is what will tell you what is definite and what is indefinite. In the intro, I showed you these three pieces of text. The first one, Ar-Rasulu Karimun. Second one, Rasulun Karimun. Third one, Ar-Rasulul Karimu. Now you can see in all three, I've used two words, Rasul, which means messenger, Karim, which means noble. Again, look at the translation as we've seen them before. A noble messenger is number 2. And then we have the noble messenger in number 3. And number 1 is a sentence. The messenger is noble. From the English, you can easily tell that number 1 is a sentence, the others are phrases. So number 1 is your jumla ismiya and the others are descriptive phrases, which we mentioned in the introductory session. Now, they all have only 2 words. They look almost identical. Of course, there are some subtle differences. And the differences you should now be able to tell. For example, you should know that this word is definite because it's got al, and this word is indefinite because it doesn't have al. Whereas this word is indefinite, and this word is also indefinite, no al. Whereas this word is definite, and this word is definite. So you can see there is some slight differences going on here. And of course, also you can tell the Arab that this is Rafa because of Muslimun. So there are things that you can already tell from what you've already learned. Inshallah, I'm going to teach you the basic rules for forming sentences in the practical session. Just wanted to highlight the importance of definiteness, why you need to know it inside out, and what benefit it will bring. With your knowledge on Arab and your knowledge of definiteness, you are now actually ready to start forming your own sentences and your own descriptive phrases, as well as translating selected text from Quran. Alhamdulillah, that's all we need to share with you in regards to one of the 4 properties of an ism called definiteness. This, along with the knowledge that you have acquired on Arab, will help you start forming sentences and phrases. And we will pick this up in our practical sessions. I hope you'll take full part in that, where you will be learning the rules for making sentences and phrases and how to recognize them in Arabic, and not only that, translate some selected text. For now, all I want to say is Jazakumullah khairan for watching the video. I hope and pray that you found it beneficial. I hope and pray, inshallah ta'ala, you are able to retain some of the knowledge and information. Inshallah ta'ala, if there is any way we can improve, please let us know. If there are any errors also, please alert us, and we will try to make the corrections before the next version release. May Allah reward you and bless you for taking part. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you barakah in all that you do. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easier for all of us to begin to understand the Quran in Arabic. Make the Quran our light and our guide in this world. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raise us up in a better place in the hereafter. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.